Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we'll be doing the second part of our gameplay. We are in turn number 3. This is scenario number 80. We'll have to take this task upon ourselves. This takes place in January of 1945 in Poland on the Eastern Front between the Soviets and the Germans. And if you have not watched part 1, this would be a good time to check that out if you want to know what the situation is and the scenario rules and all that good stuff. That's in part 1. We're not going to talk about it again. I also did a first look, so if you wanted to see what the components of the game look like and get an overview of the rules and etc., you can also do that as well. But we're going to go right into this. This is turn 3. The Soviets get first move each turn, so they will get to go first. The Germans took a couple of unit losses in turn 2, and they lost an anti-tank gun, granted only a 20-millimeter gun, so it wasn't exactly much more than a pop gun when taking on the Soviet T-34s here. But nevertheless, it is something that they will probably miss because there is also infantry. Speaking of infantry, the Soviets here took this building. There was a weapons team there, a machine gun right here, that got eliminated in melee, but it was not without cost to the Soviets, who did take a unit reduction in that assault, and so they are reduced. So we're going to start, speaking of that, we're going to start right here with the Soviets, and they're going to attack this group here to see if they can to do something to them, at least maybe perhaps suppress them. So they will fire. This is a simple fire attack. Their firepower is a 4. The range is 1, so they are adjacent. And let's see, what else? They are in a wooden building, speaking of the defenders, which gives them a -1. With a -1, their firepower becomes a 3, but they're adjacent, which increases it by 1, makes it a 4. So they are going to attack here. It is also at night, so ultimately the finished firepower, because it's a -1 for being at night, and the adjacent hacks, you basically wipe it out, it becomes a 3. So we're going to re-roll, or roll rather. And we got a 6, so that is a miss. We'll put a used on there. So we can go, well, let's move this tank up and have them attack as well. Now these guys do have a Panzerfaust, but we're gonna chance it because the Panzerfaust isn't all that effective here. Although we did lose one to a Panzerfaust earlier. So we're gonna move. Well, we could try it. We could just fire from here, I guess. Let's move up, because here's the thing: Panzerfaust range is 2, 1, 2. So if they do get a shot at it, then that's going to be bad for the Soviets, of course. We're going to fire from here while we're still out of range. Now, again, they are in a building, so vehicle firepower will be reduced by 1. Their firepower is a 10. Okay, but to fire, they have to roll above their proficiency rating, which is a 6, or below it rather, and they rolled a 2. I used the wrong die. They rolled a 2, so they do fire. Now it's a 10. They get a -1 for the building, making it a 9. And they get a -1, 2, 3 for the distance, making it a 6. So they need a 6 or less for this to hit. And they rolled a 10, which is always a miss. So not good luck thus far for the Soviets. Now they've activated an infantry unit, which costs 1, and a tank unit, which costs 3, so that's 4. Now they do have another infantry unit here, which would only cost them 1, and their command point range, or operations range rather, is 3 to 6. So let's activate this guy and move him. Now every one of these costs 1.5, so he's going to go 1, 2, that's 3 points. And then here would be 4.5. And then he can use assault fire. But before that, this guy will take an opportunity fire shot at him. You have to use their op fire range. He moved at night. Moving at night gives them a +2. but the visibility is a -1, so it becomes a +1. So they have a 2. We'll give them a command point as well to make it a 3, and then the Germans will roll. So a 3 or less is what they need. They got a 6. So that did not work. We'll slap a used on here. And now they get to fire. So it's assault fire. And assault fire uses proficiency as well. Same thing. So it uses its proficient firepower. And it's not suppressed, so it didn't have to really do a morale check before moving, because it's a 10 and it can't fail it. So they just simply need to roll. Now they get a plus. Let me see. What do we get here? Yeah, so they would roll a 2. Their proficient firepower is a 2. They will use a command point to make it a 3, and we'll roll for them. And we got a 3. So that 3 will result in this unit being suppressed. And this guy gets marked as used. And that is the end of the Soviet turn. So now we have a vehicle here. Let's have this Panzerfaust here fire at them to try and get them before they get up here, because they're going to try and destroy these Stukas. This wheat field in this scenario is actually an airfield. And historically, the Soviets were advancing so quickly at this point in the war that they caught the Germans kind of flat-footed here, and they were trying to evacuate the aircraft from their operational airfield here. And it is January, it is nighttime, so that makes things a little tougher as far as operationally for the Germans, the Luftwaffe, I mean. But well, you get the picture. Okay, so they're going to fire. They've got the Panzerfaust. It has a range of 2. This is not opportunity fire. It's just regular fire, right? But when you fire a squad or anti-tank weapon, you have to do a different check. So you take the squad's SATW number, and it's a -2 in this case, because it is a Panzerfaust, and we're using 1944 Panzerfaust stats because of the they were using older equipment, basically. So they get a -2 on the check. So that 10 becomes an 8. They are in a building, so they get another -2, which makes it a 6. And then the range is another -2, so they need a 4. So this is a dicey 40% chance here, 4 or less. And they got a 7, so they miss. So they've missed. Now, the German command point range is 2 to 6. So that's 1. Now we're going to try and activate some of these aircraft to get them out of here, if possible. So the rules for this are pretty simple. They can't be activated until turn 3, but that's where we are now. Their only possible action is to attempt takeoff by passing a proficiency check. Okay, and their proficiency is a 6. So we are going to roll and see if this Stuka here can take off. And it's a 1, so it does. Okay, now if it passes its check, it's moved directly southward, passing through any Russian units until it is destroyed by op fire or it exits. Now, to be honest, none of the Russian units will be able to fire at it except this one, because of the range. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one's out of range because night visibility is only 4. So as it's taking off here, it's still 4 away. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they can, well, the building though gets in the way. The building gets in the way. Their facing is this vortex right here, or vertex. I keep saying vortex. It's vertex. And that leads right through this building, and they're still on the ground, so they can't take off. And this guy's used, and this one's used, and that one's used. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, only gets them here. So as far as I can tell, that means this guy is going to escape. Because I would assume that they don't actually take off, until it exits the airfield. So it would move here, then here, then here, then here, then here. Then it takes off and it's gone. So this is successful. So I'm going to put this over here. as one that they will not get any victory points for. Each aircraft destroyed is worth 1 victory point for the Soviets here. So they may not do all that well. Now that is a second. It's a vehicle, so that costs the Germans 3, which puts them at 4, and they don't have enough to try another one. So that's gonna be it for them. And we'll go back to the Soviets now. The obvious thing here is to move these guys up. So I'm considering dismounting the infantry so that they can take this building, because we need to capture all the multi-hex buildings to get victory points as the Soviets. So we are going to dismount the infantry, and it's going to stay here in this hex, but the tank is going to move through the orchard. And in terms of movement points, the orchard adds 1 movement point. So it costs them 2, so that's 3, 6. We could try the crushing rule here as well, because I think they can get up there after it. So yeah, so they moved here was 3, because 2 plus 1 is 3, so that's 6. The movement factor is 15, and every additional 1 will cost 2. So crushing costs 5, but if they moved here, that would be 8, or here for that matter. So let's just say they go here, that's 8. They still have their movement factors of 15, so they can move on here and destroy this by crushing it. So this gets removed, and this gets marked as used. And its facing is actually this way. Okay, so that's a victory point for the Soviets. They get victory points for capturing buildings and destroying the aircraft. So that's going to be 1 victory point for them. And that's 3. And these guys also get marked used. After they dismount, they can't move. So now this one, if they go here 2, 3 more is 5, 8, 10, 12, 14. That would get them there. So our half hex is okay. It doesn't say that they're not. So they'll go here and point this way. So they're kind of off shot, I know, but they're at the very top of the board, and they're marked as used. So obviously the next move for the Germans is to try and get those aircraft out of here, because they're going to need to get out of here or they're going to get destroyed by the tanks. That is 6 for the Soviets, so they are done. Their range is 3 to 6. They've moved 2 tanks. That is 6. So now we go to the Germans again, and they're going to try to get these guys out of here. So again, we need less than a 6, 7. That one fails. That one's going to be destroyed. And now we'll do the other one, and he got a 3. And these guys are used, so they won't be able to fire at them. So they're also going to be able to get out of here. So they got out too. So it looks like the Germans are going to lose 2 and gain 2, because they're going to have 2 chances to crush it in the next turn. But turn 3-wise, they're done. And none of these other unactivated units are going to be able to get there. So let's move these guys in here as well, because now we need to try to take this building. So maybe we'll move these guys in that direction. So they're going to turn this way. 2, 4, 6, 8. And then they will fire, because they can do so. We're going to take the move marker off, because they're going to stop now and fire. And so again, it's 10 for their, oh wait, this is actually, I'm sorry. This is actually an M3. So they're just going to dismount. And we're going to mark this as used. So we have a possible assault for next turn. Assault fire or melee. or just fire from an adjacent hex in melee. It's not technically assault fire. Then we'll move these guys in the same. Do we want to do it that way? Let's send our 1, 2, 3, 4. This gun here, 1, 2, 3, 4, can see here. Actually, it can't because of this building. I should have moved it when I thought about putting it here, but I wanted it to be in a place where they would be able to, because its fire arc is here. So it can go here and then out to here and then so on up. So if it went 1, 2, 3, 4, if this guy moved in this direction, he'd be able to see it. This area is lake. So it's not, it's clear ground in terms of visibility. So you can see from this board through this area and vice versa onto this board. So let's move our vehicles here. So we're going to send our tanks. We're going to go 1, drop our infantry off here. Let me turn that this way. Then we're going to go 4, 6, 8, and 10. And he'll be pointing this way. And at this point, the gun is going to fire. Okay. So it's going to fire. The armor, in this case, is an 8 because it's front armor. It's not side, it's front. Our firepower is a 13, I think. No, 8. It's an 8. So it's 8 on 8, which is a 0. So that would be, you would need a 1 to hit. They would also have to pass their proficiency. And since it's op fire, they would also take a, I think it's a minus, you do take a, yeah, they get a -2 for op firing. So that would mean they would need a 6. So let's try it. And we got a 6. Now we need to roll a 1 to actually hit. And we didn't get it. But it was worth a shot. So we'll stop there. And now they will fire because that's what they were planning on doing. Now they are in a building. And it's a stone building. So a stone building is a little bit better, obviously. So gunfire power becomes takes a -2. They also get a -2 for nighttime, so that's a minus. Well, first we got to do the proficiency check. So the proficiency check. So we must pass a proficiency, right? So here's our proficiency here. Must check proficiency before firing. Okay, if firing at a target greater than 5 hexes, no. If target marked move, no. If fire marked as op fire, no. If firing after turning within its hex or moving to a new hex, -4. So we have to use that one. Then at night, we get another -2. So we're looking at a -6, and their number is a 6. So we can roll, and if we get a 1, because a 1 is always good, we did not. So they are done. They're done. They did not get to fire. Okay. So that's one of the Russian moves. We also have to mark this guy as used because he was unloaded or dismounted, if you would prefer. Now we're going to take this guy and we're going to go 2, 4, 6, and we're going to turn. And at this point, we're going to have maybe the Panzerfaust will hold fire. They're going to go here next. So that's 8. And they're going to stop because they're going to fire at them now. So this is op fire. So they will have to take a morale check because there will be some, they have to take their SATW check here. So you take their number, which is a -2. It's another -2 for op fire and a -1 for range. So that's a -5. Their morale is a 10, so they need to roll a 5 or less. They did not get it. So they are there. Now they're going to fire at them. They are in a foxhole right there, which says -2, -4. And if we look at our terrain effect chart for foxholes here, you can see it's a -2 to the vehicle gun firepower. Now we also have to check the vehicle's proficiency for firing at the infantry here. So again, if we're firing after moving, that's a -4, and they get a -1 for that for being in the hex. So they just need a 1, basically, and they did not get it. So both are done, and that is 6. So that finishes the Soviets, and the Germans will mark the 2 furthest units away that are down here. They're going to mark them as used, leaving them with 3 units that aren't being used currently. And we'll move on to, let's see. We've got 1 Soviet unit that has not moved yet, so they will move. They're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and they're going to dismount. And yes, they're going to dismount. And these guys will attack next turn. That is the end of turn 3. So we will now move on to turn number 4 here. And so I have to do my cleanup. First, we have to check for routing. Now, this guy here, he's suppressed, so he's going to have to take a route check. His morale is a 5. He's the only one that is suppressed. Everybody else's morale is a 10, so they don't need to take the morale check. So the Germans are going to take the morale check. They need to roll a 5 or less. They rolled a 2, so they're good. Now we will go to the end. Excuse me, the end of the phase. I'm going to remove all these markers and leave only the moves, and then we'll continue. Okay, so we're on to turn 4. And I'll slide my marker up, which is off shot, but I'm just using it so I don't forget where I am. All right, so it is the Soviets' move first. So the first thing we're going to try is to crush this unit here. So they will have to roll their proficiency. No, that's only for firing. So they're going to move, and we'll use this one here because it's behind them. And he's going to dismount his infantry, and he's going to run over this Stuka, which is now dead. And he's facing that way. I'm going to turn these guys up, and he's still moving, so he keeps his move. So he's done. These 2 get marked as used. Done and done. Come on, man. Get on there. There we go. All right. Now we're going to activate this one, and we're going to have him go this way. He's going to stop, and he's going to fire here. So we have to check for his proficiency. Now, proficiency check again. So he moved, which gives him a -4, and his range is 1. So he needs to roll a 1, and he didn't get it. So done. That is 6. So the Soviets are now done. So now we're going to use our Panzerfaust here, and we will try to attack. Let's try to attack this guy. Why not? Right? He's right there. Facing does not matter for infantry, so we're going to attack. Now, again, when we do this, we have to take the minuses here, the adjustments. So we get a -2 automatically for their SATW number because they're in a building. And then we also take a -1 for the hex. So that would be a -3, and they are a 10, and they got a 1, so that's good. So they did fire. Now their firepower is a 22, and the armor of the tank is an 8, so that would be a 14. So anything but a 10 will be a hit, and they got it. They rolled a 3. This tank has been killed. I'm going to put that there. They've killed the tank. They are marked as used. And that is 1 for the Germans. Now, they don't have really any vehicles or anything that they would be needing to use. So we'll move on to this guy here, and he's going to attack this adjacent one who's out in the open. So his firepower is a 4. They are adjacent and in the open. So they get a +2, which would make it a 6, and then a -1 for night makes it a 5. So they need to roll 5. They automatically passed the morale check because it's a 10. And they rolled an 8, so they miss. No effect. That's 2 for the Germans. We're going to have this guy attack here. Why not? So again, adjacent at night is a +2, which makes it a 6, but they get a -1 for night, and they get an additional -1 for the wooden building, which moves it back to a 4. So they're going to fire at this one, and they rolled an 8, so they did not hit either. Not good for the Germans here. Not good at all. Okay. Switch back over to the Soviets, right? So we've got our M3 here, and we're just going to leave that alone for the moment, and we're going to move these guys in for an assault, or melee rather, and then we're going to move these guys in as well. Maybe not. Let's move them. Yeah, I'm going to move this one in too. So that would cost 1 2/3 for moving through the orchard, and then another 2/3. He's got 5 movement points, so that's not a problem. So we've got 2 units in there for melee. That cost me 2 activation points. I'm going to take my M1 here, and I think we're going to move it out of here. So he's going to turn around and go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and he's going to stop here. His facing will be that way. And he's going to be marked. Let me mark him used so I don't forget. But we're going to load that infantry on there to attack to the south, I think. We'll see how everything else goes. But that's 5 now, so that's the end of their turn. So we go back to the Germans. And so we'll have our gun again try to attack the tank. So his firepower is a 3. And the tank's armor, the firepower is a 6. And the tank's armor is an 8. No, I'm sorry. The firepower is a 13. I was looking down there. That's the casualty number. 13, and their front armor is an 8. So that's a 5. We'll see if he can pass his proficiency check. So again, nobody moved this time. And so we would, did not move, did not turn. So it only gets a -2 for that. So it needs a 6. Got a 2. So it did fire. Now the firepower is a 5. And he rolled a 1. So that means he's destroyed this tank. So the Soviets lose another tank. And that is that. I think. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, none of the firepower modifiers apply. So that tank has been destroyed. And so I'm going to mark one of my back units as used. Again, it's off camera, I know. But we'll see that towards the end of the scenario if we make it that far. So now we go back to the Soviets, and let's have this guy. Let's have him move in here for melee. And we'll have our tank Or do we want to leave the tank alone for now? Let's have this guy move in for melee. And we're going to move this out of here. So that would be 2, 1, 2, and 3 is 5. We'll go 2, 4, 6. Actually, he should go here and stop. He's going to go here and stop because he's behind the building, so the gun can't fire at him. All right, so those 2, that's 5. Let me mark him used here. So he's used, and that is the end of the Soviets. We'll mark 2 more German units as used. We'll do that one. Back to the Soviets. We've got this guy right here, and I was gonna mount him. So I'm just gonna mark him as used, and let's move down. Let's go 2, 4. Stop there. And we'll put a used on here, and we're going to move this guy here and mark him as used as well. And that is it. The Germans would mark their final units as used. That. And now we will resolve our melees. So we'll start up here. So we have 2 for the Soviets. Both, well, actually, 1 has a firepower of 6. That is our submachine gun squad, and then the regular infantry squad has a firepower of 5. So we roll 2 dice here, and a 2 and a 7. So they're going to get 1 reduction from, we'll say that was the 6, right? Why not? Now we roll the 5, and we get a 7 and a 9. We're going to spend a command point to re-roll. And we got a 9 and a 10. So that one did no damage, so they're going to get reduced, but their firepower is a 4. Right? And I'm just going to pull this off. It doesn't matter. So now they will roll 2 dice. And they got a 4 and a 4. So that means both of these units will take 1 reduction. And nobody won. So this is going to continue in that hex. And I'll take this away. Now we'll do this one. So again, we've got 1 unit here. And we'll roll the Soviets. They need a 5 or less. 6 and a 2, so they're going to take 1. Now we'll roll for them. Their firepower is a 4. And they got 2 reductions, so that eliminates this unit. Okay. And our last one is down here. And it's the same thing. So it's a 6 for the Soviets. And they do one reduction. Now the Germans, they do 2 reductions, so they kill another squad. So that is just really not good for the Soviets here. Yeah, that's not good. Just really not good. Okay, but that is the end of turn 4. So we'll go to turn 5. And I'm going to remove all the markers except that 1 move marker, and we'll pick it up. Okay, on to turn 5. So first order of business is, oh, I forgot to remove that one. So we're going to mount, you know what? No, we're not. We're going to have this tank turn and fire into this hex. So its firepower is a 10. The wooden building is a benefit of -1 firepower, so that would make it a 9. First, we have to determine proficiency here. So again, we're going to, it did not move, which is going to help. Yeah, it's not moving, so that helps. And it's going to be just a -1, so they need a 5. They need a 5, and they get a 6. Not good, man. Not good at all. All right. So that's 3. Now we'll have them attack too. Why not? So they need an 8 for their morale check. And they got a, well, let me re-roll that. It was like leaning. So that's a 3. So that's good. Their firepower is a 4. It gets reduced by 1. They are adjacent. It is at night. So that's going to end up, it's a +2 and a -1, which makes it a +1. So their firepower is a 5. They got a 1. So that suppresses them. Actually, no. That's more than double. It's higher than the casualty number, the difference. 5 minus 1 is 4. So they get eliminated. So they are eliminated. And then they can advance into that hex. They get marked as used. And let's have him stop and fire at these guys. So that's 10. Now he was marked move, so I think that counts. So they're going to take a -4 on that and then a -1. So they need a 1 for this to actually happen, and they got a 10. So that's definitely not. And let's say he dismounted him first before he did that. So that would be, oh wait, I couldn't do that actually. I don't have enough actions. Don't have enough actions. So let's just put the move back on him, and we'll do that next time around. Okay, so now we go to the Germans, and we'll have this guy fire at the tank riders. So it's 4 adjacent, so that's +2, and then -1 is a +1, so that's a 5. I could try the Panzerfaust, but we got to roll for their morale first because they're reduced, so their morale's now an 8. They got a 7, so they barely passed that. But they did pass it. Now we need a 5 or less. We got a 2. Their casualty is a 3-7, so they get reduced and they get suppressed because of the difference in the firepower. That's a good roll. They're now off the tank too, I guess. I believe that's what happens. If they take damage, they are dismounted. So the Russian infantry is taking a beating in this, and maybe I'm doing some stuff wrong. But that's 1 German action done. Then we're going to just take a pass, basically, and mark one of the back units. Maybe we'll mark them up. Well, let's mark this guy as op fire, just in case. And then we mark one of the back. Well, no, that's 2, so we're done. We're done. Let's go back to the Russians, and let's try to move some of these guys here. So that's going to be 2/3, 4/3. It's hard to see the hexes on here. They were here. No, they were up here. 2, 4, 6. So that's 2. 2, 4, 6. That's 4. They can move 1 more. So we'll move here and be done. Mark used. And then we'll move the tank as well. Tanks are easier. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And he's pointing that way. Used. Okay, back to the Germans. We'll do the same thing. We'll slap an op fire on this guy and mark one of the other back ones as used. And back to the Soviets now. We have our tank, so we're going to stop the move, and he's going to fire at that right there. So now we're doing what we did before. Okay, so he has a 6 that he has to roll for his proficiency here. And he did move, so that's going to be a -4. And he gets another 1. So he needs a 1, which he does not get. So he just gets marked as used. And they're both used. Well, actually, no. This guy underneath, I don't think is used, is he? No, he's not. So he's actually on top now. So let's have him fire at this anyway, right? You know, he's got to pass his morale check, which requires a roll of 5 or less. And he got a 3, so he can fire. His firepower is a 4. They are in a foxhole, which gives a -2. So that is a 2. So he needs a 2 to hit. And he got a 4. So he's also used. So I'm just going to put used on top of both. Whoops. Butterfingers. Done. And for the other one, we'll have... we're going to have this guy mount on there. All right. In reading the rules, talking about mounting, it really says that if you, once they're dismounted from a carrier, which is what an M3 is, the carrier is removed. So I'm going to remove both of these. They're not killed, but they were used. So that means that we don't have that vehicle to move. And the only active unit that has not, or available unit now for taking an action, is this infantry here. So we're going to have them advance, and they'll go 2/3, 4/3, and then they'll go here. Now the orchard is hindering terrain. There's a house here and a house here, but this gun has visibility into here. So they're going to still move in here anyway. Okay. Now the gun has to decide from the German side, do we want to fire op fire from here or just let them be? And I'm going to actually just let them be for now. So we're going to put a used on there. Although I think they could actually have moved into this building. Although they do, no, they couldn't. No, they couldn't. Because the movement cost would be too high. They only have 5 movement points. So that ends them, and the Germans now will have the gun fire at them since we can. Firepower is an 8. Okay. They're in the orchard. So the orchard reduces firepower. It's still considered in beneficial terrain. That just means for routing purposes, I believe. There is no adjustment to firepower. So the firepower is an 8. They have to pass their morale check first, of course. So they did not move, and the distance is 2. So it's a -2 for night. So they need to roll a 6. They rolled a 5. So they are firing. So the firepower is an 8. And we roll, and it's a 9. It's a 9. So unfortunately for the Germans, that did not do anything. And that being the last unit, there is one right here, but he would just get marked used. I'm not going to do anything with him. Though I could move him up. Maybe I'll do that. We're going to move this guy up into this hex right here. So he's literally 1 hex below this road. So if he moves up there, that's 2/3, and then 2/3 more into the building. The building itself adds 2. So that would be 2, and that would be 3 1/3, basically, which is well within his 4. So he will be marked as used as well. And now I may move the other guys up as well. And we're going to move once we resolve our melee here, because now we're in the route phase again. So we do have a unit that has to take a route check. And they are suppressed, so they do have to roll a 5 or less. They rolled a 4, so they passed that. So that suppression will go away here when I remove the markers. But first we have to do our melee up here. So we've got, for the Soviets, we've got a 4 and a 5, and for the Germans, we have a 4. So let's roll for the Soviet 5 first. And they get a 4, which is going to eliminate the Germans. So I'm not going to roll for the 4 Soviet. We'll roll for the 4 German, though. And they got a 6 and a 4. So they're going to eliminate 1. And I guess we'll take the lower one here, which is a regular squad. Keep the submachine gun squad alive, and this is eliminated. And now they have captured that building. So this building is now controlled by the Soviets. And that is one of the buildings. That is the only building, I think, on this board that is two hexes. And there are several down here on this one, but they do get a victory point for that. So they need 9 total, and they destroyed 2 aircraft and have captured 1 building. That is a total of 3. So they can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. So they can get a max of 10. And if the Germans manage to not give up any of those extra ones, then they would actually win. They would actually win. So that is the end of turn 5. And I'm going to end my video here. And we'll stop and say that if there's interest, I can do a part 3. You know, designate your interest, or, you know, show your interest by saying, hey, Joe, I'd like to have this scenario complete so I can see how it ends. And if enough people want that, say more than a handful, I would be glad to do so. But otherwise, yeah, that is going to wrap it for this. We've done 5 turns. I would say the Soviets are in a pretty good place. The Germans have lost 4. They've lost what? They've lost a gun, a weapons team, 2 infantry squads, and 2 of their 4 Stukas. The Soviets have lost more. They've lost 1, 2, 3 of their tanks and 3 squads. So that's a decent amount of losses on both sides. They've lost half. They've lost half of their T-34s and half of their regular squads. They still have 2 submachine gun squads, one of which is reduced. And the other one is... Actually, are they both reduced? That's not it. Where is the other one? Is this it? No, there's one there. Where's the other one? Oh, no. I thought they had 2. Did they lose one of them? Oh, they did lose one of them. So they've lost 2 of their regular squads and 1 of their submachine gun squads. And yeah, so that's going to do it. I do appreciate you guys watching. Please consider liking, sharing, and/or subscribing. If you are a subscriber, thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Again, if you want me to continue, please let me know by commenting. But yeah, that is it for this one. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.